If you're even the slightest bit interested in adventure, you've probably heard of Zion National Park. Known as one of America's finest national parks, Zion has captured the imaginations of countless outdoor enthusiasts and even clinched a TripAdvisor Traveler's Choice Award as one of the top 10 most stunning national parks in the United States. But for all its beauty and splendor, the wilderness can be unpredictable and cruel. And in 2015, that cruelty was starkly revealed when the park became the backdrop for a story as disturbing as it was unforgettable. What began as a quest for adventure by a group of friends drawn by the park's legendary canyons turned into the worst disaster in the history of Zion National Park. As we explore their journey, remember, as always, viewer discretion is advised. I think this photo will go down as one of the most disturbing photos in Zion National Park's 100-year existence. That's because just hours after this photo was taken, every member of the group would find themselves trapped in the bottom of one of Zion's narrowest slot canyons, caught off guard in an unthinkable situation. Their story shifts from one of camaraderie and exploration to a desperate fight for survival. Located in the rocky landscapes of southern Utah, Zion National Park looks like it's from another planet. I mean that literally. There are very few places in the world where Mother Nature has done such amazing sculpting work, and Zion is where she shows off some of her best creations. It's like walking through a giant natural art gallery. Its beauty comes from a mix of tall sandstone cliffs, deep canyons, green plants, and the Virgin River that snakes through it all. The park's unique rock formations and varied landscapes offer an amazing experience for visitors. The tall cliffs, colored from deep reds to creamy whites, are incredible to see. In the daytime, sunlight shifting on these huge rocks throughout the day creates a lively and eye-catching scene. The bright cliffs against the clear blue sky make every view picture perfect. At night, the dark skies show a different kind of beauty. Looking at stars in Zion National Park is enchanting, with a clear view of the Milky Way with countless stars twinkling vividly above. The changes in seasons also add to Zion's beauty, with each season offering something special, whether it's the fresh greenery of spring, the bright colors of fall, or the stark beauty of winter. For many adventurers, Zion is a happy medium between the wild yet dangerous thrill of other American national parks like Yellowstone, with its volcanic springs and unpredictable geothermal activity, and the tame, manicured pathways of parks like the Great Smoky Mountains. One of the park's most iconic spots is Angel's Landing. Named by Methodist minister Frederick Vining Fisher in 1916, he believed that only an angel could land on such a majestic sandstone cliff. Fast forward to today, and countless adventurers climb to its summit each year. So popular has this trail become that in 2022, a reservation system was introduced to manage the crowds. If you're lucky enough to secure a permit, you'll embark on a 5.4-mile trek that climbs 1,500 feet, culminating at a breathtaking ridge. Here, you're rewarded with safety chains and an epic view of Zion Canyon stretching out below. Another standout attraction is the Narrows, the slimmest section of Zion Canyon. This hike is a journey through slender, towering passageways where walls rise nearly 1,000 feet. There are so many things you can do in Zion: hiking, horseback riding, camping, stargazing. But for real risk-takers and adventurers, Zion's primary attraction is exploring its challenging and exhilarating slot canyons. These narrow, twisting passages, which were carved over many years by the force of running water, are not for the faint-hearted. They offer an adventure that combines physical challenge with the raw beauty of untouched nature. For the 7 people about to experience a horrifying tragedy, an activity known as canyoneering was about to take center stage. Canyoneering, also known as canyoning, is an exhilarating outdoor adventure sport that involves navigating through canyons using a variety of skills such as hiking, climbing, rappelling, swimming, and sometimes even diving. Enthusiasts traverse rugged terrains, often with the aid of ropes and harnesses, to descend steep cliffs and waterfalls. The journey can lead adventurers through narrow slots, over boulders, and into hidden pools, showcasing breathtaking landscapes typically unseen by the average hiker. Canyoneering requires a mix of physical fitness, technical skills, and an adventurous spirit, making it both a challenging and rewarding activity. Participants must be prepared for variable conditions and possess knowledge of navigation, first aid, and safety procedures. This sport offers a unique way to explore nature's stunning rock formations and water-carved passages, providing unforgettable experiences and adrenaline-fueled memories for those who dare to venture into these remote and beautiful natural playgrounds. Advocates of the sport often say the canyoneering isn't extremely dangerous unless you're careless, but if they're honest, it can actually be riskier than other outdoor activities like mountain climbing, because once you start going down a canyon, you're committed. You have to go all the way to the end. Unlike other outdoor adventures, canyoneering often involves complex rope work, cold swims, and only occasional views of the sky, making it more like cave exploration. Canyoneers wear wetsuits, harnesses, and sometimes helmets as they walk, lower themselves with ropes, and swim through tight spaces. This sport became its own thing in the 1980s, and its fans created special tools for smoother, controlled rope descents, known as racks, and reusable sandbag anchors instead of leaving them behind. These changes led to a key practice in canyoneering today, called ghosting. The idea is that you go through the canyon and leave nothing behind. This approach is based on the idea that untouched canyons are rare, and removing all ropes and anchors lets others experience them as new challenges. It's even frowned upon to share the routes on social media. While doing my research for this video, what surprised me most about this Keyhole tragedy was reading that beginners and amateur canyoneers are left out there by themselves. Like most, I didn't know Zion bans any technical guiding within its borders. This rule is mostly because of tradition. There were no guides in these canyons in 1919 when Zion was protected, so no one pushed for allowing them. In 2007, when the park updated its wilderness plan, despite a high visitor count and some demand for guides, they decided the park was busy enough without them. A survey showed 82% of people were against commercial guiding. This lack of guides keeps Zion away from the commercialized tourism that many other parks depend on. Many other parks have so many safety features that people start to think of them as safe amusement parks. At Zion, there are few places where rangers will stop you for your safety. If you want to climb the big sandstone walls or go down steep canyons, you need to know the skills and watch out for yourself. People decide their own risks and deal with the consequences, which can be quick and severe. In September 2015, 7 people embarked on a canyoneering adventure in Zion National Park's Keyhole Canyon. This group from the Valencia hiking crew included Don Teichner, the group's leader, a 55-year-old who was semi-retired from managing his family's garment dyeing facility in Los Angeles, 59-year-old Muku Reynolds, a special education aide from Chino, 53-year-old Robin Brum, a hairstylist from Camarillo, Mark McKenzie, 56, a system operator for Burbank Water and Power, and Gary Favela, a 51-year-old sales rep from Rancho Cucamonga. The final victim, Linda Arthur, was a grandmother and the wife of another group member, Steve Arthur. This beginner-friendly route was chosen for its manageable 1,200-foot length, requiring just 3 30-foot rappels and some navigation through cold pools beneath its narrow, smooth walls. Located just 5 minutes off the Zion-Mount Carmel Highway, the route was intended to be a straightforward excursion. They were expected to navigate the canyon with relative ease, with each member supporting each other through the various challenges, kind of like how hikers often rely on support from fellow trail enthusiasts during long treks. Now, even without much technical training, the Keyhole is a relatively easy challenge. But despite its accessibility and beginner-friendly nature, Keyhole Canyon is not without its dangers, as you're about to see. The very features that make it a great starting spot for amateur canyoneers, that is, its narrow passages and enclosed spaces, also make it very open to sudden weather changes. These slot canyons, while magnificent, can quickly become claustrophobic traps, turning them into deadly channels for flash floods. And on September 14, 2015, this group of 7 hikers were about to find out just how deadly. This Valencia hiking crew, mostly in their 50s and with varying levels of hiking experience, had meticulously planned this trip for months. Earlier that morning before descending, the group, excluding Steve who fetched their permit, participated in a 5-hour canyoneering class offered by the Zion Adventure Company to brush up on their skills. They learned essential skills such as rappelling, rope management, and how to handle the cold pools that dotted the canyon's floor. These techniques were crucial, especially for navigating through Keyhole's narrow water-slicked passageways. Around noon that day, after their class, the hiking club gathered their gear, including helmets, wetsuits, and ropes, to protect themselves against the cold water and rough rocks. Looking forward to their time together, they took a happy group picture before they started. Tragically, it would be the last photo taken of them together, alive. Despite a clear morning, the weather forecast had warned of possible thunderstorms in the afternoon. By 12:53 p.m., Mark McKenzie, one of the hikers, texted his family a photo of the blue sky with fluffy clouds, showing how beautiful the day was. However, the weather was about to change dramatically. Zion is part of the region in southern Utah, known for its very random weather swings, and this is due to its unique terrain. The area's climate can shift quickly, mainly because it lies at the junction of several major geological formations, including the Colorado Plateau, the Great Basin, and the Mojave Desert. These intersections create a zone where atmospheric conditions can rapidly evolve in the blink of an eye, leading to intense storms that come out of the blue. The weather in Zion and surrounding areas alternates between dry periods and intense monsoon rain seasons. During late summer, monsoon winds carry moisture from the Gulf of California across the desert southwest, traveling northwards until they meet the cooler air of the high desert. When these moist currents rise over the southern Utah highlands, they cool rapidly, and this moisture often erupts into sudden, heavy thunderstorms that dump a lot of rain very quickly. The steep canyons and hard rock surfaces in Zion are very steep and made of a type of rock that doesn't soak up water like soil does. Instead, rainwater flows quickly over these surfaces, gaining speed and power as it moves. When heavy rain comes, it collects from the vast flat areas at higher elevations and rushes into the narrow canyons below, quickly filling them with fast-moving water. The combination of Zion's terrain, the quick accumulation of rainwater and the narrow slot canyons creates perfect conditions for flash flooding. These floods can rise without much warning, as rainwater from higher elevations rushes down through the canyons. Even a small amount of rain can result in powerful torrents due to the area's inability to absorb water quickly. This swift movement of water can turn a calm stream in a canyon into a fierce river in mere moments, capable of sweeping away anything in its path. And really, it can sweep away anything. In the early hours of that Monday morning, the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City updated its forecast for the Zion area. There was a 40% chance of precipitation with potential heavy thunderstorms by afternoon. They also upgraded the risk of flash flooding to moderate, which is a serious warning, and the second highest level of warning, especially noting the danger in slot canyons. And less than an hour after a group from California received their permit for Keyhole Canyon, the likelihood of rain was adjusted up to 50%. At the Zion Visitor Center, a ranger posted a sign warning that flash flooding was probable that day, and also verbally informed visitors, including those seeking permits. At least one other group planned to explore the canyon, despite this. It's impossible for Steve Arthur to have missed the warning signs while he was applying for the permit, and it's even likely he relayed his concerns for rain to his fellow canyoneers. That's because at 1 o'clock that afternoon, Someone from the group called a family member to check the weather again. They wanted to be extra careful. Although there was still only a chance of rain, they knew the weather could turn quickly in the canyon. They got the all clear and decided to move forward with their plans. And here's where things go south quickly. An hour later, as they drove towards Keyhole Canyon, they lost cell phone coverage. This meant they could no longer receive updates about the weather. And just 22 minutes later, the National Weather Service issued a flash flood warning for their area, stating that flooding was probable and advised everyone to move to higher ground immediately. Unaware of the updated warning, the group arrived at Keyhole Canyon and began their descent. The canyon's path took them deeper and deeper into a narrow gorge, where the walls rose high on both sides, blocking much of the sky. The first part of the canyon journey probably went smoothly, with the group rappelling down cliffs and wading through pools of cold water. The ropes they had practiced with that morning came in handy, and spirits were high. Around them, the canyon buzzed with the energy of adventure. There was a lot of laughing and cheering. They were really enjoying themselves, recalled Jim Clary, another canyoneer who was in Keyhole that day. Clary's encounter with the Valencia group happened just as Gary Favela was about to rappel. Favela, along with Mark Mackenzie, was still at the top preparing for their descent when Clary approached. Observing the larger group, Clary noted their use of the toss-and-go technique, a safer but slower rappelling method that involves looping the entire rope through a carabiner. Wanting to avoid delays in the narrow canyon, Clary asked if his group could pass. Mackenzie was accommodating, allowing Clary's team to move ahead. This interaction was brief but friendly, marked by the shared understanding and respect, typical among those who navigate these type of terrains. As Clary's group moved forward and set up for the next rappel, the Valencia group continued their descent. The atmosphere was lively. However, the weather above was quietly shifting. Within 20 minutes of Clary's departure, dark clouds rolled over Zion, and at 4:30 p.m. a sudden, violent downpour began. The promised rain was upon them, and as expected, it brought with it flash floods. But what was unexpected was the level of water it brought with it. In less than 1 hour, 0.63 inches of rain fell in Zion Canyon. Flash floods hit Keyhole and several other canyons. Within 15 minutes, the flow of the North Fork of the Virgin River rose from 55 cubic feet per second to 2,630 cubic feet per second. Within minutes, what started as a trickle of water in the canyon turned into a raging torrent. But deep inside Keyhole Canyon, the canyoneers were still unaware that a flash flood warning had been issued, or that anything was wrong. Everything changed at the third rappel. Suddenly, a loud thunderclap echoed down the canyon walls, signaling the storm's rapid approach. Jim Clary, an experienced canyoneer in the group, quickly helped his brother-in-law, Rob, off the rope and urged him to hurry downstream through a narrow, water-filled passage. "I got my brother-in-law Rob off the rope and told him, just go," Clary recalled. Rob plunged downstream, navigating a narrow 6-foot-deep channel carved by the rushing waters. They knew once we got through the 3 rappels, we had 5 minutes of canyon left and we're out, Clary explained. The urgency and tension was thick after the thunder echoed. Clary knew speed was essential. Despite his initial inclination to leave his rope for the group behind to aid their descent, Clary reconsidered, fearing it would confuse them due to their different, slower double-strand technique. As Clary and his group hurriedly descended, the storm unleashed its fury. There was no warning. It hit like a fire hose turned on full blast, with rain and hail, Clary described. The canyons quickly filled with roaring waterfalls of runoff water. Nearing the exit, the walls of the canyon receded slightly, offering a chance to climb out from the now turbulent water pools. By the time Clary and his companions reached the road, the storm had transformed the landscape dramatically. The water was waist-deep, surging through a culvert under the road into Clear Creek at a tremendous pace. "The adrenaline of just making it was overwhelming," Jim recounted, but his relief was tempered by the stark realization that the group behind them were trapped by the canyon's sudden transformation. The aftermath was chaotic. Clary and his group reached a ranger kiosk near the Zion Mount Carmel tunnel, but their attempts to report the situation were hindered by busy communication lines. The park was overwhelmed, grappling with mudslides, rockfalls, and the extensive flooding that affected thousands of visitors. They pressed on toward Springdale, encountering another ranger. Despite informing him of the unfolding disaster, the response was underwhelming. The ranger hurried them along, consumed by the broader emergency enveloping all of Zion. In good weather, the initial segment of Keyhole Canyon allows for a relatively easy escape. Hikers can climb up the rocky sides or exit through a natural opening halfway through the route. However, once the path leads deeper into the canyon, where rappelling is necessary, the option to turn back disappears. The only way out from there is forward, towards where the canyon widens near Clear Creek and Highway 9. David Eaker, a spokesperson for the park, noted that the group was using just one rope among them. When you have a larger group sharing a single rope in that canyon, everything slows down. Everything takes more time, he explained. Unfortunately, on that day, their progress was too slow. It took too much time. The group probably quickly realized they were in a dangerous situation. With water levels rising rapidly, they tried to find a way out. However, Keyhole Canyon's steep walls and narrow paths made escape difficult. The rushing water made it impossible to climb out or backtrack to safety. As the storm raged, this experienced, rugged group of canyoneers must have struggled against the powerful current. They probably attempted to use their ropes and climbing skills to anchor themselves and stay above the water. They probably felt the claustrophobic panic of being completely and totally trapped, surrounded by rising water with absolutely nowhere to go as the relentless force of the floods swept over them. Notice how I keep saying probably. That's because no one knows exactly what went down. No one knows how they spent their awful final moments. What we do know is that despite their efforts, the situation quickly became dire. The flash flood turned the canyon into a deadly trap, with water levels rising too fast for any safe escape. The sheer force of the water likely overwhelmed any attempts to secure themselves or use their equipment effectively. As the storm continued to pour, the relentless currents swept through the narrow passageways of Keyhole Canyon, showing no mercy. Meanwhile, outside the canyon, park rangers and rescue teams were becoming aware of the dangerous conditions. The rain and flooding had affected large parts of Zion National Park, but things quickly settled. By 5:30 p.m., other canyoneers who had passed the group earlier reported to the rangers that the Valencia hiking crew might be trapped in the flood. And when the crew still couldn't be accounted for at 9 p.m., rangers immediately began coordinating a response. Despite the challenging conditions, they initiated a search and rescue operation, knowing that every second could be critical. The rain had turned many parts of the park into hazardous areas, and this made their efforts to reach the canyon difficult. The search was postponed till next morning in the hopes the flooding might have gone down by then. As the rangers and rescue teams prepared to enter Keyhole Canyon on September 15th, they faced a series of obstacles. The paths were slick with mud, and small landslides had blocked some of the usual routes. Additionally, the continued risk of further flooding made the operation especially dangerous. The team had to navigate carefully, balancing the urgency of the rescue with the safety of the responders. By the time they were able to access the canyon, the storm had passed, but the aftermath was evident. The once tranquil streams within the canyon had transformed into powerful torrents, and debris was strewn about, making the terrain even more treacherous. The rescue teams pressed on, driven by the hope of finding survivors. However, as the hours passed and the full scope of the devastation became apparent, the mission shifted from rescue to recovery. There was no longer hope that any of the group could possibly have lived through the floods. In heart-wrenching discovery, each of the 7 hikers was found in separate locations, carried away by the force of the floodwaters. Steve Arthur's body was found first, almost 24 hours after the Valencia hiking crew entered Keyhole Canyon. This recovery marked the beginning of a grim search that unfolded over the next 2 days. His wife, Linda, was the last to be discovered. Her body, found almost 5 miles downstream, away from the others, 2 days later on September 17, 2015. After her body was recovered, the search was officially called off. The Keyhole incident deeply shook Zion National Park's rangers, as well as the tight-knit canyoneering community. While cuts and bruises were common, someone dying from canyoneering was almost unheard of, let alone 7 experienced adventurers. It left the victims' families wondering if their loved ones had taken unnecessary risks or lacked proper information. Seasoned canyoneers debated how such a severe accident could occur in what is considered one of Zion's safest slots. This disaster stands as the deadliest canyoneering event in American history and the most fatal accident in Zion's 100-plus years. Some family members blamed the tragedy on poor warnings. This group wasn't reckless. They were parents, grandparents, people with families. They respected the wilderness and understood its power, said one of the family, urging the National Park Service to enhance their warning system. If they had any inkling of the danger, they never would have entered the canyon. There is no way they would have gone in there if they had any thought in their mind it could be dangerous. There's just no way they wouldn't have done it, she asserted firmly. However, for others like Ryan McKenzie's sons, the disaster was merely the result of unfortunate timing and bad luck. Ryan, who had navigated Keyhole Canyon multiple times and considered it suitable for beginners, believed the timing was crucial. Pretty much if they started the canyon half an hour before or half an hour later, he said, there's a good chance they would have been fine. In a way, I guess they are both right. And that is why this story is so awful. Better warnings, cell phone coverage, and just a minor shift in timing, a mere 30 minutes, could have spared them from disaster. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay bold and live brave.